Welcome back to my Animal Crossing drawing journey. That's a bit of a mouthful. Today I'm getting started on the Anteaters by drawing Annabelle. And just like Drago, she is not necessarily supposed to be the same species as the rest of the Anteaters. She may have the Anteater body model in the game, but you may notice that she's the only one who doesn't have the same fluffy tail that all of them have. Her design is actually supposed to represent a pangolin, which is a very endangered mammal that has all these scaly looking plates all over its body. And Annabelle here does not have them all over her body, and I wanted to give her more scales at first, but I chickened out and just stuck to the original design. I did add a nose though. I really don't like designs that don't have noses, so now all the Anteaters are gonna have them. What's really strange here is that she's the only one who's not an Anteater, yet her name is Annabelle, which is a reference to Anteaters, but there's another Anteater villager who isn't a pangolin that's named Pango. That's incredibly confusing. I feel like they should switch names. Pango is like one game older than Annabelle is, so I'm assuming they probably wanted Pango to represent a pangolin at the time, but didn't have the ability to change the model, I guess? I don't know. But regardless, Annabelle is very unique, kind of a fan favorite, and she's the first peppy type of villager that I'm drawing. Her color scheme has literally all primary and secondary colors of the rainbow, and it's not easy to see at first glance, but I'm actually not really a fan of the purple on her hands and feet. I don't think that color fits the overall vibe, but I was drawing this while hanging out with my mom, and she said that I should change the color of the claws to a darker color, and I agreed. So if you see the claws change on like the first 4 of these Anteater drawings, that's the reason why. For my very first peppy villager drawing, I don't know if I have her doing the best pose. I would want peppy villagers to look very energetic, but I feel like the pose I gave her fits more for the normal personality type. I can't think of anything else interesting about her other than the fact that she wants to have a cosmopolitan house for her vacation home, or it's just a yard where she wants to invite everyone from all over the world, which makes me wonder if she wants to be like a diplomat when she grows up or something. I don't know. I'm not really educated. Or maybe not when she grows up, since she's already old enough to own a house. This one was pretty quick and simple and very pretty. The next Animal Crossing Anteater is Annalisa, a real Anteater. And surprisingly, she wasn't as difficult as I originally thought she was gonna be. For as long as I've been in the Animal Crossing fandom, I've always remembered that the Anteaters were the least liked species in the games, or they were, at least once, but I might be misremembering, I don't know. But I remember Annalisa not getting a lot of love when she was first added in New Leaf. But for me, her design really isn't that flawed. The style of the eyes is definitely a little lifeless, but I mean, I can fix that by adding more highlight. I also think it's kind of the point for her eyes to look that way because she's meant to resemble one of those porcelain Japanese dolls, which also have very exaggerated blush and mascara. I really fell in love with this beautiful kimono that she wears in the newest game. It is 100% an improved outfit for me. Or maybe I'm just obsessed with kimonos and obsessed with drawing them because they look so cool, so elegant and so comfortable. The paper parasol that I'm drawing for her is in fact the same type of umbrella that she uses in the game when it's raining. I just thought it would be cute to include that, so there you go. Another thing I had fun with is all the gradients that are present in her color scheme. The red fading to the purple, fading to the white was just very satisfying to color. And it did take me a while to study some pictures of Anteaters to at least get an idea of how long their faces actually are, and make sure the tail is styled a bit better to my liking. Anteaters can be very cute, and the kind that I'm using for reference mostly is the giant Anteater. There's a lot of smaller species of Anteater out there that have shorter noses, but their tails aren't as fluffy, so I feel like Animal Crossing Anteaters are meant to be based off of the giant Anteater because it has the frickin' long mop tail. For those wondering if it's difficult to shade something that's white, it's not too difficult if you figure out what color looks good on top of it. For me, I always try to go with like a light peach pink or like a light blue, and I just test out whatever color I think of in the moment, and it just, you know, if it looks good, I keep it. If it doesn't, I try a different color. I don't know, this video is very long, so I feel like I have time to explain my shading process. After I do all the base colors, including the gradients, I make a layer on top of it, and I put that layer on multiply, and that automatically darkens whatever color I use for shading. And for highlighting, I do a layer on top of that that has the screen blending mode on it, and that usually brightens whatever color I'm using for highlights. I just try my best to be mindful of where my light source is hitting, and it can be wherever I want it to be, pretty much. And honestly, Procreate just kind of makes it very easy to shade, in my opinion, especially if you're using like a stylus and not your finger, where you can control the pressure sensitivity and everything. You can shade very softly, you can shade very dramatically, you can shade in many different ways. I think Annalisa came out very well. I'm very proud of the way I drew her, and I'm very proud of just the shading in general. A part of me feels like I may overdo it sometimes in the coloring department, but these are meant to be eye candy anyway, so deal with it. The next Animal Crossing Anteater is Antonio, and I was pretty excited to draw him. I think he is absolutely probably the cutest Anteater for me. His design is just so simple, but it works, especially when it comes to the Anteaters, because, like I said, not all the Anteaters get a lot of love, but I feel like Antonio is definitely loved by many just because of his cuteness levels. You can make any villager look cute if they have big round eyes, and I think that's one of the reasons why villagers like Rald and Dottie are popular, despite having relatively simple designs and color schemes. I also just like how his face is a different color from the rest of his fur, because it makes him look like he's bald, but really it just helps me tuft his ears out more and make his more fluff on top of his head and stuff. He and Sano are the only male anteaters that don't have like actual hairdos on their heads. Olaf and most of the female anteaters get all the fancy hair. But anyway, Antonio is a jock villager, and I wasn't going to make him do anything energetic like I would normally do for any of the other jock villagers, but I did include a soccer ball as like a prop for his picture, because there's not really anything particular about him in the game that says he's strictly a soccer player, but he looks like a soccer player to me, mainly because of the black and white striped arms and the yellow t-shirt he wears, and a yellow t-shirt feels like a soccer color to me. I don't know why. I feel like my younger brother's soccer team has yellow jerseys. So far I'm having fun drawing all these villagers. I've actually been done with Antonio's drawing for a while and was finishing up Serrano's drawing, and I just haven't recorded a TikTok video yet for either of them. I've just been a little busy with other projects this summer, and college will be starting again soon, so. But I can hope I can still work on villagers at least a little bit every day during my free time. Also, I was very indecisive with the background on this one. I couldn't figure out if I wanted it to be purple or green or blue. And ultimately I went with a bit of a purple and bluish because it was kind of a nod to the old Star t-shirt that he wears in older games. If anyone is wondering why I think his color scheme is a little too simple, is because he uses the exact same colors that a species of giant anteater has, like the same stripe pattern that you would see on a giant anteater, like. And sometimes I do feel the more bland a color scheme is, the more longer I would take to shade it, but he's still a cute villager, so I can't really be mad. And honestly, I don't really know what else to say. I'm very tired right now. I'm staying up so late recording this right now. And the KK ragtime music isn't making it any better. It's just making me more tired for some reason. But I hope you all enjoyed this one. It's definitely one of my favorites I did so far. The next Animal Crossing Anteater is Serrano. Now this guy is really popular, and not just because he's a pretty solid villager in the game, but because he's one of the side characters from the anime film. And he's like best friends with Caesar or something. It's really hard for me to remember how he sounded and acted in that movie because it's been a while since I watched it. But I know that with certain celebrity villagers like him, I need to make sure he looks epic, which I think I pulled off. There are probably some newer fans saying like, what? This guy isn't a famous villager. Villagers like Raymond, Marshall, and Judy are the popular ones. And I'm like, yeah, that's true today, but Back then, this guy was like a legend amongst all the Anteaters. I've seen so much fan art for him. His design is iconic. He is an OG. He's been around since the first game. The only game he skipped was Wild World, but still, the dude is still popular among most fans. One thing that did confuse me though is the outfit change. In New Horizons, he's now wearing a martial arts outfit, but I don't remember martial arts being a big part of his character gimmick. But similarly to Boots the Alligator, I have to make the pose complement the outfit and have the outfit make sense. I believe a good way to look at it is his vacation home is construction and architectural based, right? So maybe he uses his martial arts skills to like chop wood or something. That would make sense, right? Because you would need wood to like build houses and stuff, and his house looks very judo looking. Like he looks like he would want to break wood in that house. If you're wondering why his color scheme looks so good to you, maybe it's because his colors are complementary to each other. Blue and orange are on the opposite side of the color wheel, so they have the most contrasting hues when put next to each other. So your eyes pay more attention to it, and that's the beauty of using complementary colors for a majority of a character's color scheme. And I would also say it's a symbol of balance, and that made me think of putting a yin-yang behind him, because the yin-yang is a symbol for balance as well. Overall, I feel very satisfied with how I did the coloring and shading with this one, especially with putting a gray muted color background behind it, because it helps everything pop and everything stand out. And yeah, that's Serrano, our favorite cranky martial artist. I should probably rewatch the movie. I am finally back with another Animal Crossing villager drawing, and this time it's Olaf the Anteater. I have been done with this drawing since November, but I haven't had the time or sometimes the motivation to record this TikTok video. But good news is, I did manage to finish the other 3 Anteaters after this one. I started these Anteater drawings in July, a month after I finished the Alligators, but it is now late January. So it took me about 7 months to finish these 8 drawings, which feels pretty bad, but if I didn't have college to worry about, I probably would be able to draw the things I want more frequently. But anyway, this drawing of Olaf is probably my new favorite. Sorry, Antonio. I'm just really crazy about the outfit. He's a smug villager who wears the suit of lights, and what's funny is that the sleeves from that same outfit that your character can wear are still present on his body if he were to ever change clothes. So really, the sleeves are just the colors of his arms, or they're just always present on his arms no matter what. The most obvious trait with Olaf is that he's exceptionally fancy, and you can tell that I originally tried to draw epaulettes on his shoulders, but then I realized epaulettes are more of a military thing and not something Olaf would wear. Other than that, he seems to harbor a lot of romantic charm and characteristics, as well as just wealthy traits, with just the suit alone. His Japanese catchphrase is referencing the Spanish word mucho, which means a lot or very much, and his house has a tendency to have elegant or sleek styled furniture and generally expensive stuff. So his pocket camp and other items seem to reference a lot of Spanish music and Spanish culture. So I thought it would be fitting for him to be in this very tango-like setup pose where he's offering you a dance, and you got the iconic tango rose and the overall extravagant romance vibe. I mean, I would dance with him. He'd be a lot better than me at it though, and a lot more suave. I also like the fact that his legs and feet are colored in a way to make it look like he's wearing pants and golden shoes. But like I said earlier about the sleeves, his body is just weirdly colored to match this overall aesthetic. Also, I've already seen this in other fan arts of him, but I think it was a great idea for me to give him a ponytail. The ponytail makes his look a lot better for me, even though there's not a lot of evidence in the original design that he has one. A lot of people don't like his design because of the hair, but I think that's only because the hair is flattened around the model and isn't separate from it. And this is a problem with a lot of villagers where they can't have nice hairstyles like the player can because their hair is always completely flat and the same shape as the head. I hope in a future game that comes out we can have an update to the graphics and animation where the animals can finally have fully rendered hairstyles. That would be really nice. It just goes to show that just because a design looks relatively bland in the style of the game doesn't mean you can't reimagine or recontextualize it to be more appealing. After I posted this drawing on a few platforms, there were some comments that were like, wow, I didn't know he was this good looking. And like people were surprised that they never thought of Olaf as being a good looking villager. But yeah, I loved drawing this. It makes me wish I had him on my island, but I never really had any Anteater on my island, come to think of it. I'm too busy collecting goat villagers, but yeah. The next Animal Crossing Anteater is Pango, and she is another fairly popular one as far as Anteaters are considered. I've seen a good amount of fan art and people commenting that they have her on their island, or that she's their favorite Anteater, and in my personal opinion, the color scheme is not really that great for my tastes, mainly because of the extremely saturated royal blue color taking up 70% of the overall design. It's not always easy on the eyes to use that bright of a primary color, and I know that probably sounds hypocritical coming from me since I do use a lot of bright and vivid colors in my school projects and other things you might find on my Instagram. However, even though a color is bright doesn't mean it has to be oversaturated. For color, saturation means how much absorbed light is intensified, and if the colors you're using are too pure or the brightest versions of themselves, then it becomes harder to add more color to them or to even shade them. And this is the main reason why, even if I'm using bright colors for the base of something, I try to mute or gray the color a tiny bit so that there's more spectrum to work with. For Pango, I had to favor the highlights more than the shadows to make something cohesively three-dimensional while using the exact color palette, but I feel like I didn't really succeed. But oh well, she still looks nice and is doing a cute pose, and in the end, that's all I really want to accomplish. Like I mentioned earlier in Annabelle's video, it is really odd to me that Pango's name references a pangolin despite being an anteater, and Annabelle's name references an anteater despite being a pangolin. You could definitely switch their names and not much would change about their characters. When drawing Pango, I wanted to experiment with different body types so that not all the anteaters look so similar, and we have a smidge of body diversity, so if she looks a bit more built with a greater bone structure than the others, that's the reason why. And I also love the fact that for her vacation home, she requests to have her own beauty salon. I think salon workers and stylists are extremely talented people, and I would love to have that represented through Pango here. That's pretty much the vibe I get from her, and she has the preppy personality, so it fits. There are other aspects of her, like her music choice, or houses, or other things throughout the games that are sometimes Arabic, sometimes Moroccan, or sometimes Egyptian inspired, all of which are very desert culture areas. She just has a peaceful, calm, and warm theme about her, which is great contrast to her cold color scheme. We love contrast in this household. Next up for the Animal Crossing Anteaters, we have Snoody, one of the only two villagers in existence to be named after their personality type. I find it extremely interesting to name something with a word that is not traditionally a name or even sounds like one, but the fact that one of the personality types is used for the name of one of the only animal species it could ever make sense for is very funny. I like reading the wiki and being like, Snoody has a snooty personality, and as a snooty villager, Snoody will act snooty towards the player. Puns can be cool when they make sense. But anyway, I drew her in a very similar pose to her E-card, with just a lot more exaggeration and energy put into it. Because of her personality, she is arrogant and rude sometimes and is easily repulsed by things, which her creators were obviously trying to make the focus of her character. Despite this distinction, however, she is definitely not at all popular among the fanbase because, oh no, she's not anime levels of cute, which means she's ugly and I want her off my island now. And for me, that's just laughable. Snooty's design isn't anywhere near the direction where some villager designs go, and even then, at least her design makes sense and aligns with her, no matter how simple it may look to some. Again, a lot of this is because the hair doesn't get to be three-dimensional, and I feel immensely satisfied every time I get to draw actual hair with actual volume on these animals. The rest of Snooty's character, besides her personality, seems to be very East Asian inspired. Her home is filled with things like bamboo and tatami and kimonos. She does wear a kimono in her New Horizons poster, but I like the fact that her initial outfit is more casual and doesn't have to be a direct reflection of her possible ethnicity. I feel like with a lot of the East Asian inspired villagers, you can instantly tell they're Asian inspired because of what they wear or how they look. But with Snoody, it's not immediately obvious that she has an Asian background, and instead, she's presented more contemporarily East Asian, as opposed to like Annalisa, who's more traditionally presented. She definitely has a lot more layers than I thought. And last but not least, to finally finish off our Animal Crossing Anteater drawings, we have Zoe, or Zoe. I'm not certain which way to pronounce her name, but I'm going to go with Zoe as default since there is no Y at the end. As you can see, I'm starting off with one pose that I feel mostly confident about, but then you'll see me start to change and redo the entire drawing completely. This is because I had posted the WIP in some Discord servers, and there were comments from a few people who were pointing out her feet and making inappropriate or creepy jokes about her feet, which I'm mostly fine when it comes to people making immature jokes like that. It's bound to happen regardless. But eventually I wanted to try and avoid more of those comments by coming up with a much better pose that would draw attention away from anything inappropriate. The fact that feet are even viewed in that manner to begin with is just ridiculous and shouldn't even be acknowledged. But oh well, I would have salvaged the original pose if I didn't end up liking this new one a lot better. Zoe is a very recent comeback villager from the original game. She was absent for every game that came after Animal Forest and was recently added to New Horizons in the last update that it had. So it's very nice to have her back. I don't see a lot of fans really crowding for her as much as the other villagers that got added alongside her, like Shino, Ione, and Sasha. I feel like she probably should be popular, considering she's mostly your average cutesy villager, and cutesy villagers are typically in high demand. But something that easily distinguishes her from the rest is that she seems to be resembling in appearance to a toy or stuffed animal, a lot like Stitch's. However, some have speculated that she's still a normal anteater who's just wearing a onesie or a bodysuit. You can see her on her newest texture that she has buttons and flaps around her hips and on the sides of her head, so I decided to make slight nods to both of those possibilities by making the head be an apparent onesie hoodie, while making the rest of the body appear more stuffed animal-like, with stitching textures and everything. I am very excited to be done with all of the Anteaters. I had a lot of fun drawing them, and this is definitely the most Anteaters I've drawn in my lifetime, obviously. I feel like that's gonna be a recurring feeling with this Animal Crossing project I'm doing. The next animals are the bears, and there is 15 of them. If I'm not counting the cubs, there is 15 regular bears. So 15 drawings. I cannot wait. Let's hope I can do it. But yeah, I hope y'all all enjoyed this, and I'll see you later.